Motion Twin has a reputation for delivering innovative and polished gaming experiences, with Windblown being no exception. This latest title has just entered early access and combines the studio's signature creativity with a fresh take on roguelites, resulting in a game that's both challenging and captivating. At its core, Windblown is an action roguelite with co-op of up to 3 players. What's your main goal? It's to get to the center of the vortex that is slowly devouring all the islands floating around it, with hopes of finding a way to stop said vortex. Currently, there are 5 different areas for you to progress through, and all of them are very unique in terms of environment and enemy variety, so you will find yourself facing a different kind of challenge in every one of the areas. You yourself will be playing as a leaper from the Ark, which is the island that serves as your main hub. You'll start each run with a fish knife and will unlock different weapons as the run goes on. During your run, you will get boosts that will increase stats like health, damage, attack speed, critical damage, etc. These buffs directly improve your character stats and will often be big factors in your overall build. You will also run into memories or gifts that are essentially the traits of this game. You can have up to 4 gift slots via upgrades, but can purchase more slots during runs if you have the corresponding upgrade from the Ark that allows you to do so. And lastly, there are trinkets that you'll encounter along the way as well, which are essentially skills. For example, Whirlwind that spawns a damaging field around you, or a grenade that tosses a bomb at a nearby enemy. All of which can be found at higher levels throughout the run, scaling their damage and sometimes adding in passive effects like extra crit damage or just extra damage. Now earlier I mentioned upgrades. You can access a list of upgrades while in the Ark that require cogs. Cogs are a currency that you get in runs as you defeat enemies. These can be used in the Ark for upgrades that will heavily impact your run, like starting off with an extra weapon or trinket. Alongside cogs, there are Memmonite fragments that you collect during your runs as well from mini bosses, and some higher health enemies via a skill that you unlock called Crystallize. These Memmonite fragments are used for unlocking new weapons, gifts, and trinkets that you bring home from your expeditions. Finally, there are shells. You gain shells from enemies and breaking containers on various maps, and these can only be used during runs to make purchases from shops you'll encounter in your runs, and usually at the end of levels or sometimes via secret passage. Now that I've told you about the core mechanics of the game, you may be saying, that's all great, but what about the combat? How does that work and how does that feel? Well, my friends, the combat feels incredibly responsive and fluid, as I had no trouble canceling sword swings or shuriken throws with a dash, and I was even able to avoid some attacks while using certain other attacks that would have you jump in the air. Each weapon has a light attack and most have a heavy attack, but the most interesting mechanic that I found within Windblown was the alter attack system. An alter attack is a special attack unique to every weapon that occurs after you finish an attack chain with the weapon. The alter attack symbol will appear above your character's head, and at that very moment you will use your other weapon's attack to trigger the alter attack. Oftentimes this will be a very hard hitting skill that can even stun or apply damage over time effects to enemies depending on the weapon. There are even cases where you can get invincibility frames while using some of these attacks, which you can strategically use for dodging attacks. Now for some pros of the game. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, Windblown has very responsive and fluid combat with a lot of replayability, and that's due to all the different weapons, trinkets, and gifts in the game that can make each run very unique. This alone makes the game one of my favorites of the year, but it doesn't stop there, because Windblown also has a beautiful art style with an equally amazing soundtrack for all of the zones. Honestly, the soundtrack alone is enough of a reason to play the game. I mean, just listen to this. And finally, I think this game has a good sense of progression as you gain access to more weapons, gifts, trinkets, and upgrades available in the Ark the further you progress in your run, which in turn makes you more powerful, which in turn makes your next run easier, and the cycle continues. As for cons, honestly I don't really have any gripes about this game other than it not having the world's most amount of content, but that's just due to it being in early access. So I wouldn't even really consider that a con for right now. But as of this video, there's going to be a content patch soon, this month, that's going to be adding a bunch of content to the game. So if you guys want to see some gameplay of that, then definitely consider subscribing, because I'm going to 100% be covering that, because I've been absolutely enjoying my time in Windblown. And if you guys want to see gameplay of Windblown in general, I do have a playlist on my channel where I have played Windblown from start to end. Now, to wrap things up, I will say Windblown is definitely another triumph for Motion Twin. It blends innovative mechanics, stunning visuals, and satisfying gameplay into a cohesive package. While its difficulty in some parts may deter some players, those who persevere will find a rewarding and memorable experience. Whether you're a fan of roguelites, Dead Cells, or simply appreciate well-crafted games, Windblown is definitely a journey worth taking. Thank you for watching, my friends.